Welcome to the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast, where we explore the latest in enterprise trends, tech, and strategy with the top leaders shaping the future.
Hi, I'm Kanika Goswami. I'm the managing editor of IT Security Wire, our enterprise and cybersecurity focused publication. We have engaging conversations with global thought leaders and industry experts that reach over 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. In an era of escalating geopolitical tensions and an increasing reliance on autonomous technologies, safeguarding the UK defence sector from cyber threats has never been more important. The 2025 Strategic Defence Review charts the UK's defence trajectory for the next decade, says the defence infrastructure faces a relentless threat of cyber attacks. Leveraging advanced technology to increase the Ministry of Defence's capability is a need of the hour. But automating and connecting systems which have traditionally been electromechanical in nature increases the cyber threat further. So what is the way forward? Today at ITSW, we speak with Haroon Malik. He's a global director, OT security at Atos, to discuss the best ways of fighting threats to the defense sector. Welcome to the podcast, Haroon. It's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you, Kanika. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
So before we start with the questions, a little bit of introduction to Haroon. He's a Honorary Associate Professor and a Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Information Security, which is widely recognized as a global authority in operational technology and cyber resilience. With over 2 decades of experience advising boards, government bodies, and critical infrastructure operators, Haroon is trusted by senior leaders to navigate the evolving threats to industrial environments. An advocate for knowledge sharing, Haroon has lectured at the top UK universities, including the University College of London, Royal Holloway, and the University of Nottingham, reaching hundreds of students and professionals globally. His mission is clear: to build a cyber-secure industrial future through leadership, education, and innovation. So once again, welcome to the show, Haroon. My first question to you is, how would you describe the evolving threat landscape and the risk to defense systems in particular? We usually discuss enterprise systems, but here we have a slightly different look because we're talking about a country's entire defense system. So how would you describe it if you were asked to do it?
Thank you. And first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity as well, Kanika. So let's talk about the defense landscape. So for me, it's been a very interesting industry sector to look at, because when I look at defense as a whole, what we see is a real shift. I think if we go back to pre-COVID, what we saw was what we call very singular, single-based attacks on single systems, okay? Quite isolated attacks. And very opportunistic, right? I think what we're seeing now are quite targeted, quite persistent, almost state-sponsored campaigns of relentless attacks on global supply chains that belong to the UK defense sector. So in summary, more sophisticated, more targeted, and definitely more advanced.
So, and would you also say that emerging technologies, or if we can get more specific, AI, automation, are they contributing to the severity of these attacks?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's the way I term it is like a double-edged sword. You know, technology, AI, quantum, robotics. You know, these things enable organizations, especially the defense sector, to do wonderful things. You know, they enable us to do things quicker, faster, better. They help defend the country more effectively, more efficiently. But at the same time, you know, the other end of the sword is that the hacker groups, criminal gangs are also using the same technologies. You know, they are also using AI. They're also using quantum to kind of break into our networks quicker and faster than ever before. So absolutely, you know, it's a double-edged sword. While we're trying to protect using this technology, our adversaries are using the same technology to get into our network. So yeah, it depends which way you look at it, I guess.
And you've used the exact phrase which we typically use. It's a double-edged sword. In one way, it makes it more deadly. In the other way, it gives better protection. So, and there's a fine balance to be achieved there. So, you were saying something.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the danger with technology, right? It's evolving at such a rapid pace that sometimes we don't actually know what the vulnerabilities are 100%. So, you know, this is something that we need to test and test again before we really deploy that technology out there.
So why do you feel that reorganizing cyber security strategies under a unified command is vital to reduce fragmentation of the response or the fight back, if I may call it so?
Yeah, I think typically in the defense sector, and not also in defense, but in other sectors as well, I think what we see is a very fragmented approach to cybersecurity. Many different departments, many different third parties, contractors, and I really commend what the defense sector has done in terms of unifying this now. I think before they had a electronics command and a separate cyber command, and what they've done is they've brought those two together. And I think the advantages of doing that are really, there are two or three things here. I think the first thing is it leads to less duplication, right? I think once you have two different departments or two groups of people that are doing pretty much the same thing, that's where you get a lot of duplication. I think the second thing it allows for is just more consistency. When you have a unification, there's more consistency in terms of the way you approach cyber threats, in terms of the way you defend the country. So I think this unification is something that I really commend. It's really the best way to go forward.
So when we're talking about unification, are we also talking about unified strategies across, how should I put this, open fronts? Or are we also talking about unified policies as far as security is concerned across departments? Or is it just unified tools across all kinds of vulnerabilities?
No, I think it's a bit of everything. I think if you look at people, process, and technologies, when we're talking about unification, it wouldn't be very efficient just to unify the people aspect and not the policies and the processes and the tools. So I think what we're talking about is a unification of people, processes, and technologies. And I think by doing that, you're bringing everything on a level playing field. If you leave one thing out, this is one of the things I observe with our clients here at Atos, is that we try and make sure that everything is done and bringing everything to a level playing field, so that you then you can then move forward on the right foot. If you do one and don't do the other, I think that's where the problems tend to occur.
And since we're talking about the defense sector, and you can choose to not answer this question if you're not comfortable, any country's defense platforms are actually distributed globally. It is not just in one geographical position. So do you think it makes it a little difficult to have some kind of a unification for the security strategies or tools, or it's fine, it works in a single center?
I think what we've got to remember is that when we talk about unification isn't just physical unification. We're now using tools and platforms and processes. So it doesn't matter where you work or where you are. When you unify something, you're based in one country, I'm based in one country, and we're using this wonderful platform here. So I think it doesn't matter where you are. I think as long as the tools are working the right way, that is the main thing. I think when it comes to the people aspect, the unification can be a bit more tricky, because then you have cultures and then you have behaviors. As we both know, different countries have their own ways of doing things. So that unification process can take a bit of time. But the good news is, with the right learnings, the right coaching, I think we get there. It does take time, but we do get there.
And this question is because I don't understand the technological advancements that probably the UK defense sector has achieved. So I'm just asking you about this. Would it help if FCISOs if they harden the legacy infrastructure? Because is there a lot of legacy infrastructure to fight on? So would they need to harden their stance on the zero trust, the segmentation, and the proactive threat hunting, or vulnerability patching, or pen testing, or whatever else that they plan to do?
It's a great question, Kanika. And I think the way I'd answer it is, if you look at not just the defense sector, if we look at the UK industrial sector or the global industrial sector, a lot of the devices that we see, maybe in nuclear, naval, submarines, a lot of these devices are 15, 20, 30 years old, and they were designed where cybersecurity was not the priority, right? They were designed for two things: to be available and to be reliable, right? And the third thing, actually, to be safe. Cybersecurity was an afterthought. I think now when we talk about legacy infrastructure, we are having to retrospectively fit cybersecurity into devices that were not designed to be secure, right? So that is the first challenge. The second challenge is, to answer your question more directly, zero trust, network segmentation. Absolutely. If we can apply these principles onto legacy equipment, absolutely, it will make us more secure and more resilient. But at the same time, I think the danger is that we just pick these strategies like zero trust and network segmentation. They sound fantastic. boards and executive teams, they hear about these tools and they think, we want to do that. But what they don't understand is that they are just a small part of a wider jigsaw puzzle. To me, good cyber resilience, particularly in the defense sector, is about people. Yeah, the more you can change mindsets with people, the more you can change culture and behaviors, then the technical bit comes in, right? And zero trust is only, as I said, is only one part of the jigsaw puzzle. We have to focus on the basics as well. Zero trust is quite an advanced technique. We have to focus on things like patching, network hygiene, access management. These are all basic things that we tend to forget because we hear zero trust. But the message here is get back to the basics, make sure that works, and then focus on the more technical aspects of security. That's where I've seen it done really well.
So you also mentioned the people aspect of it. In most countries, I'm not sure about UK, but in most countries, people aspect is not a very strong thing when it comes to government sectors. Mostly because, like you said, they were not built for that kind of resilience. And it's an add-on. So maybe you have to, train them, educate them, make them more aware. As the challenges become more complex, you have to keep increasing the intensity of their training and their skills. How does the UK's defense sector fare in that particular line? Are you able to keep up with the change management?
Yeah, no, that's again a great question, Kanika. And I think the way I'd answer it is, if I look at UK defense and government, I think we've come a long way. I think cybersecurity training was always seen as that tick box exercise. Let's hand out the training. If we get 99 or 100% compliance within the government sector, that means our job is done. But I think what we are missing is not the completion of the training, but the change in behavior. Is that training actually leading to a change in behavior and mindsets? And I think that is what government and in fact the rest of the industrial sector need to focus on. So what they really need to do is, once they've done the training, they then need to do some testing. Okay, let's maybe do some phishing simulation attacks. Let's see if we are actively reducing the number of people that click on a link. So in summary, yes, things are improving. There's a lot more focus on training, awareness, behavioral awareness. But I think it's not a destination. Every day there is a new threat, there is a new technique, there is a new way to infiltrate data. And therefore, the defense sector needs to adapt and evolve its way in training so that they are aligned to how the threats evolve as well. So this is a continuous training, and people in cybersecurity is always going to be a continuous exercise.
And when it is coupled with, if not completely legacy, but a little earlier generation technologies, it's not going to be easy. The leaders are not going to have it easy there. There's a lot of change required there. So I'm guessing there's a lot of hard work out there. So what do you see as the role of continuous supply chain monitoring and secure by design principles in this entire setup?
Yeah, so I think the defense sector, what we've got to realize is, even if we look at the UK defense sector, it has supply chains which are hundreds, if not thousands long. You think about how many suppliers there are serving the UK defense sector, not just in the UK, but outside the UK. Really, I think the supply chain weaves across continents. And we are talking about suppliers as basic software providers, all the way through to advanced weapons manufacturing providers, right? So the range of supply chain, the range of suppliers you get in the UK defense is really vast. Now, the problem is that every single supplier represents an entry point for a cyber attack. So even though that the UK defense sector might be secure, a supplier way down the line might have a vulnerability, and that might lead to a compromise on the defense sector. So when we talk about continuous monitoring, what we are really doing is we are putting a stop to let's monitor once every 3 months. Let's look at our third parties every 3 months or every 6 months. We will monitor them from the start, from the point at which they come to tender. We will ask them, what are their processes for security? How do they monitor them? We will define some key metrics, and we will monitor those throughout the course of the contract. And the advantage of continuous monitoring, Kanika, is that you then spot risks and threats early. So in my experience as an advisor, one of the things I see is that in third party and supply chain monitoring, we spot these attacks too late. Yeah. What we want to do in continuous monitoring is that we want to spot any risks and threats much earlier on in the process so that we can then flag that to the supplier and then they can then take the remedial action. So for me, continuous monitoring, I think, is something that's going to be almost like a default, certainly for high-risk third-party suppliers. I think there are thousands out there. Not all of them are high-risk, but for those that are high-risk suppliers, absolutely, we need some form of continuous monitoring.
And this continuous monitoring will also be including assessments for compliances and regulations and all of those things, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Where we have any stringent compliance regulations, we need to make sure at a minimum that the suppliers are hitting those.
Yeah, okay. Then with new technologies, so we've already spoken about AI, we've already spoken about automation. Quantum technologies are going to be reshaping everything in a very big way. Your cryptography will be changed, modified. I don't know if I can say it'll suffer, but then the entire strategy for cybersecurity and cyber resilience may need to undergo a major change once quantum becomes mainstream. We don't know when it's going to be, but you have to be ready for it. I know your answer is going to be not for another 5 years, but it's good to be ready for it. So with them reshaping both the opportunities and the vulnerabilities, where do you think the solutions you have at this point of time stand? Are you ready for what's coming? Is the defense sector ready for what may be the risk coming in?
Very, very good question. And I think one of the strap lines we have at Atos is future ready, right? We're really looking at the future, what's coming in terms of innovation, what's coming out there in terms of cyber attacks. Now, when you talk about quantum and AI, these technologies are already hitting us. So it's not a question of if they're going to come, they're already hitting us. I think the uncertainty comes where you're getting technologies that are not fully tested. So if you think about, let's just take an example, you take the iPhone, you take Apple, whenever you download an app, you have 100% assurance that, this app is secure. It's been tested again and tested again. And now I can download the app. I think the danger in the industrial and defense world is that when you're adopting new technologies, how do you get 100% assurance that what you are going to implement is not going to compromise a system or create a backdoor somewhere? So I think that is the worry that I have, is that sometimes, and I said this at the beginning of my conversation, the pace of technology development and technology adoption is sometimes so quick. And sometimes boards and executive teams are putting pressure, we want this thing now. But when you implement it quick, you've got to make sure that it's being tested vigorously so that you're really minimizing the chances of it going wrong or compromising your systems in the future. I hope that helps answer the question.
It's kind of bordering on diplomatic because you cannot say anything more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to give a more firmer view, but yes, you're right. I have to be diplomatic and
so we will take it as we are prepared for what's coming. We know the trends, and we are, getting ready for that. So that is what I'm taking it for your answer.
Absolutely, yes.
Right. So those are the questions I have. Just for my information, is there anything else that you would like to speak about when it comes to cyber resilience of the UK defense sector that I may not have covered in terms of Atos' solutions?
I think in terms of Atos' solutions, I think one of the things that we are really, really trying to push is for organizations to take cybersecurity very seriously and think of it as a resilience issue. I think one of the things as an advisor at Atos I do is I talk to the defense and critical infrastructure sectors. I talk about cybersecurity in terms of resilience. Don't just think that you might have an attack. Think that you are getting attacked, but how resilient are you? How long can your systems withhold that cyber attack before things go really wrong? And I think that's the key message at Atos, that it is around resilience and it is around safety. So those are the two real messages I want to get across when it comes to our unique propositions at Atos.
And also, if it's an enterprise, then the worst risk would be the risk of reputation or maybe penalties. But we're talking about a defense domain here. So you really cannot afford to take any risks. So resilience has to be top of the mind. So that's the end of my questions. And I have to now thank you for the time you made for us.
Pleasure.
And
thank
you put in for finding the right place to have a conversation in.
No, I'm glad we got there in the end. Thank you, Kanika.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for the Enterprise Thought Leadership Podcast. Please do follow us on social media and subscribe for more ideas and insights. Until next time.